guys, it's Rose here. Welcome back to another one of my record collection videos. So today's album is one of my favourites / one of the greatest albums of all time, in my humble opinion. Johnny Thunders Heartbreakers, LAMF. I'm trying to get that without the ring light. Okay, so this album is both infamous and iconic. It was released in 1977. It is the only album by Johnny Thunders and the Heartbreakers, but the tracks on here are amazing. So it's known for being the only studio album and it's known for how good the tracks are. However, the infamous part is, the recording process and how famously muddy the tracks ended up sounding. Okay, so the lineup is Jerry Nolan, previously of the New York Dolls, with Johnny Thunders on drums. And there is also Billy Rath, who played bass. Walter Law, who provided some lead vocals, some backing vocals, and also played guitar. And then the man himself, Johnny Thunders. So I'm going to get into a couple of boring gear things in this video, but they're not actually boring, they're quite cool because I'm talking about it. Okay, so this album was mostly recorded in London between a few different studios. The studios were Essex Studios, Olympia Studios, and Rampart Studios, and the producer was Speedy Keen, who you might know from Thunderclap Newman, if anyone is into that, as well as Daniel Secunda, I think that's how you pronounce it. So before I go on and do the whole thing about the recording process and the mixes and the sound, I should talk about the songs that are actually on the album. There is a reason why this is a cult classic, because first of all, you've got Born to Lose. If that was one of the only songs that ever existed, I'd be happy. I love that song. Then also there is Chinese Rocks, which was written by Dee Dee Ramone of the Ramones, and also One Track Mind, which is another fantastic track. They all have quite a common theme that you could probably guess what most songs are about, but a nice young lady like me is not going to go into it. Not to cut him out, but Chinese Rocks was also written by Richard Hell, partially, but I love Dee Dee, so. So even though they kind of look like the, face of New York punk that was coming out at the time, this album is just a lot of like solid rock and roll. Like the guitar licks, you can tell, but the way that the songs are written, but it's pure and it's gritty and it's just effortlessly cool. So anyway, the tracks ended up sounding a little bit strange. Most people could probably tell, even if you don't have any sort of experience with recording or how things should sound. But the way that they were shifting between studios and, different engineers handling the mixes, the tapes fell into the wrong hands, tapes got damaged, tapes got lost. And then in 77, by the time this came out, they sounded muddy and flat. That's the best description. Muddy is what people will say, like a muddy flipping album, Oh, that was terrible. And Jerry Nolan actually quit the band over it. I mean, yeah, bit of an overreaction, I think. And so the album was recorded to analog tape, likely 16 track, and I'm not sure what said machines would have been, but I don't think it had anything to do with the equipment and the studios. I just think so many hands and ears were fighting over this, do you know what I mean? So just loads of inconsistency. People going, I want this up, I want my bass up, I want this down, blah, blah, blah. And so obviously it's just gonna become one big confused mess. And so obviously fans and critics, they all pointed out the way that this sounded was just not right. And then over the years, they've had loads of different reissues of this, because right here I've got the lost 77 mixes. And then down here, I've got the found 77 mixes. So I personally couldn't really hear that much of a difference, but right, so I'm gonna go back onto my little gear bits. So Johnny Thunders would have used his 1959 Gibson Les Paul Jr. TV yellow, absolutely gorgeous guitar. So obviously that had a single P90 pickup, it gave him his signature sound. And so with this, his tone was pretty raw. He mostly would have just done the guitar straight through a Marshall JMP 50 watts. Most likely. And true Johnny Thunders fashion, there was no pedals involved, just straight through the amp, punk energy. Cool, I respect it. And then Walter did a bit of lead and a bit of, well, he did rhythm and he did a bit of lead as well, but he used a Les Paul Standard most of the time, and I think that was through a Fender Twin Reverb, or he would have used a Marshall JCM 800 because I've seen pictures of him using that. And you can hear his vocals on One Track Mind. Yeah, very noticeable, love it. And Billy Rath, like a true punk rocker, played through a Fender P-Bass, and that would probably have been through an Ampeg SVT. And then Jerry Nolan, using the same kit as he used in the New York Dolls, I believe. It was a Ludwig kit. As I say in every single one of these videos, I'm not a drummer, my sister's a drummer. All that stuff is completely foreign to me, it's gobbledygook, but that's it. And so this album, as I said earlier, even though it's classed as a punk album, it's still very rock and roll, which shows that they weren't just going along with the whole like punk thing that had arrived on the scene. They were kind of trying to shape it in their own way, which I think is really cool. And I think that's why it stands out the most, and why, you know, it's a, even though it's extremely good, it's kind of a if you know, you know album. Even though it's popular, it's not popular to the same level as like the Sex Pistols album or the Damned's first album. So it was released in October of '77 and it did not do very well among critics or in the charts, and that was purely down to how it sounded. And this was probably exacerbated by the fact that you got two ex-New York Dolls in this band, so you'd think, okay, this album's gonna kick butt when it comes out, but then people get it and they think, why does it sound like that? I know that's like the thing that everyone says about it, but you just can't avoid it or avoid talking about it because it really is glaringly obvious. So yeah, that's my overall honest opinion on this fantastic album. Let me know what you think about it, and let me know if you think that any of the, you know, future mixes have sounded any better, because I'm not really sure. Again, I can't tell the difference, but the songwriting is there, the playing is there, so if you want proper pure punk rock, rock and roll, go for it. This is all raw, there's no polish, so yeah, bye. Is this thing on?